I'm going to start this brief video with a quote from Lewis Carroll's Humpty Dumpty, and I'll end with a different quote. Humpty Dumpty said in Lewis Carroll's book, when I use a word, it means exactly what I choose it to mean, nothing more, nothing less. I may have not got the quote exactly right, but it's something along those lines. Anyway, bear that in mind as I show you some figures from Massachusetts, the most current figures for the COVID-19 from the COVID-19 dashboard. And we're looking at hospitalization data, Massachusetts Department of Public Health COVID-19 dashboard, hospitalizations from COVID-19. Doesn't say because of or with, just for COVID-19 or from COVID-19. Doesn't say whether it's incidental or the main reason for hospitalization. Anyway, with that in mind, hospitalizations. On February 23rd, 2022, there were 512 patients hospitalized for COVID-19. Of those 512 patients, 282 were reported to be fully vaccinated for COVID-19 when they contracted COVID-19. So today, as has been the case since the beginning of the year or thereabouts, soon thereafter anyway, the majority of people hospitalized in Massachusetts for COVID-19 are people who the state categorizes as fully vaccinated. And I won't bother going into their definition right now, but just bear that in mind. The majority of people hospitalized for COVID-19 in Massachusetts are fully vaccinated. Now, what does this mean? Well, obviously, it means a few things, but the meaning I care about has to do with definitions. Let me show you some definitions. Let's start with the old definition from the CDC of vaccine. I'm a lawyer. This is an issue that comes up in my line of work quite a lot, the meaning of words. And when they're stable, that makes life easier. When they're not stable, when they're slippery, and their definition changes, makes life a little bit more difficult. So let's look at the definition of vaccine, at least as it was defined by the CDC in 2018. You'll notice that it says page last reviewed, May 16th, 2018. And that's, I believe, when it was last updated before 2021. I'll show you that updated page in just a moment. But let's look at the word vaccine, a product that stimulates a person's immune system to produce immunity to a specific disease, protecting the person from that disease. Vaccines are usually administered through needle injections, but can also be administered by mouth or sprayed into the nose. Vaccination, the act of introducing a vaccine into the body to produce immunity to a specific disease. What is immunity? Let's look at the top of the page, right under definition of terms. Immunity, protection from an infectious disease. If you are immune to a disease, you can be exposed to it without becoming infected. Okay, so that was the meaning before COVID-19. Vaccine, a product that stimulates a person's immune system to produce immunity. Now watch this. Definition of terms. September 1st, 2021, immunity means the same thing, protection from an infectious disease. If you're immune to a disease, you can be exposed to it without becoming infected. Vaccine, a preparation that's used to stimulate the body's immune response against diseases. Vaccines are usually administered through needle injections, but some can be administered by mouth or sprayed into the nose. Vaccination, the act of introducing a vaccine into the body to produce protection from a specific disease. That's a change. That's a real change. Vaccine used to mean a product that stimulates a person's immune system to produce immunity to a specific disease, protecting the person from that disease. Vaccination, the act of introducing a vaccine into the body to produce immunity. Now, vaccine means a preparation used to stimulate the body's immune response against diseases, and vaccination is the act of introducing a vaccine into the body to produce protection. So no longer does the CDC define vaccine and vaccination as providing immunity? Now the words vaccine and vaccination mean something different. They mean producing protection, which is different from immunity. I hope we can all agree. And if the meaning is no different, don't bother changing it. If it means exactly the same as it meant before, there wouldn't have been any purpose in redefining the terms. So here we are in Massachusetts, where on this day, February 24th, 2022, the most recent data available show that there were 5,270,822 fully vaccinated people in Massachusetts, and there were 447,200 cases of COVID-19 in vaccinated people. Cases meaning I don't know what. But anyway, 447,200 cases in vaccinated people. That's about, as they correctly calculate, about 8.5% of the fully vaccinated population in Massachusetts reports having been infected with COVID-19 after getting the vaccination. There's an important note down at the bottom. Identification of cases in vaccinated people relies on matching data between the system of record for cases and vaccinations. The number of cases in vaccinated people may be undercounted due to discrepancies in the names and dates of birth of individuals, resulting in an inability to match records across systems. Hospitalization data is likely also undercounted, as identification and reporting of hospitalized cases relies on that information being obtainable by case investigators through patient interview. So the Department of Health in Massachusetts acknowledges at least this obvious reason for undercounting. There's another obvious reason for undercounting, and that is that most people who are infected with COVID-19 either have no symptoms or have mild symptoms. You'll remember that back in June of 2020, Dr. Anthony Fauci went on TV and pointed out that somewhere between 25 and 45% of people infected with COVID-19 have no symptoms. They don't know about it. 25 to 45%, the people who have COVID-19 do not have symptoms, said Dr. Fauci back in 2020. Then you have people who do have symptoms, but they're mild symptoms, and either they do a test at home and discover they have COVID-19, or they think nothing of it and don't bother getting tested at all. But either way, those groups of people, the people who have no symptoms at all, don't know they've got COVID-19, or they have some symptoms, and some of them will test and discover at home that they do have COVID-19, but they don't go to a healthcare provider and provide that information that then gets fed into the healthcare provider's database and sent on to the Department of Public Health. So the Department of Public Health figure of 447,200 cases does not capture all those people who are likely to have had no symptoms or to have had mild symptoms and not reported them to the healthcare provider. So this figure, this 8.5% of fully vaccinated individuals getting COVID-19 after being vaccinated is, I suggest, a serious undercount. It's a significant undercount. The true percentage is likely much higher than that because, as Dr. Fauci said, so many people, 25 to 45%, have no symptoms at all. And then, of course, some people with symptoms don't bother reporting it to anybody, so it doesn't get into the system. So why do I mention this? Because defining terms really matters. A vaccine is supposed to, at least it used to mean before September 2021, it used to mean a product that provides immunity. And by the way, I'm not casting aspersions on the efficacy of the products sold by Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. I like being on YouTube. So why do I mention this? Because it's just important information to bear in mind when we're discussing vaccines and vaccinations, especially in court, especially in the context of people who were given the jab or your job ultimatum and chose to sacrifice their job rather than get the jab. So was the jab a vaccine? Was it vaccination? Or was it something qualitatively different? And that matters in law, because all the precedents that we deal with in law in this area, from Jacobson v. Massachusetts onwards, all deal with vaccination. They don't deal with the administration of products that do not even purport to provide immunity. So that's why it matters. I'll close with this saying. Now, three versions of the same saying. The first version comes from Robert the Bruce, King of Scotland, who famously said, "If at first you don't succeed, try, try, try again." Good saying, improved upon by either W.C. Fields or President Harry S. Truman, who said, "If at first you don't succeed, try, try, try again, then quit. No use making a fool of yourself." And I think that the final version is my favorite, often attributed to George Carlin. Might have been him, might have been some anonymous person. This version says, "If at first you don't succeed, redefine success."